You're welcome to day 2 of the our National Common Entrance Examinations 2020 preparations. Today we will be treating the part 2 of the comprehension of 2016 National Common Entrance Examinations as a model for our preparations. Please join me. Once upon a time, there lived a boy called Toro. Toro was born with one eye, which made him look strange. Wherever he went, people laughed at him and called him a monster. One day, when there was hunger in the land, Toro decided to leave home in search of food for himself because his parents did not care for him. So while he was gone, nobody missed him. Toro journeyed through several lands, villages and towns until he stopped in a town called Blind Town. In this town, he discovered that the land was fertile, with fruit trees bearing ripe fruits wasting away, and the people were all blind. They could not do anything for themselves but sit down, calling and crying out for help and alms from travelers passing by day and night. He felt pity for them and gathered them for a meeting where he suggested that because they were blind, they needed people that could see to lead them. They all agreed it was a great idea and begged him to become their king, not knowing that he was even a boy. Toro accepted and told them he would return to his village quickly to bring his people. When Toro got to his village, he narrated all that happened, and the people, including his parents, were ashamed and begged him for forgiveness. Toro forgave them and took them back to Blind Town, where he became the one-eyed king who ruled the people with great kindness. Now, in the last episode, we talked about the 3-step technique to answering comprehension questions. We also talked about the types of comprehension passages. This comprehension passage is a mixture of the implicit and the explicit. Do you remember what definition I gave to implicit and explicit comprehension passages? You may go back to the previous videos to find out. Please, if you are at this point with me where you do understand, we may proceed. If you don't, it might be in your best interest to follow us by taking the first video before this. So let's go straight into the questions. The second part of the comprehension for the National Common Entrance always starts with question number 6. Usually 5 questions in the first passage and 5 questions in the second passage. So this question says, according to the passage, Toro was called a monster because he A. had no parents, B. had one eye, C. resembled a monster, D. was a blind boy, E. was a king. Which is it? So according to our 3-step technique, we would need to go back to the passage. In the first paragraph of the passage, we would read and then we would go down in search for the answer. Why did they call him a monster? Once upon a time, there lived a boy called Toro. Toro was born with one eye, which made him look strange. Wherever he went, people laughed at him and called him a monster. So people didn't call him a monster because he looked like a monster, but people called him a monster because his one eye made him look strange. So the correct answer there is that they called him a monster because he had one eye. So we would shade had one eye. We'll go to question number 7. Why did Toro leave home? Toro left home because he was it A, blind, B, called a monster, C, hungry, D, loved, or E, sad? As with the first question, we would go back to the comprehension passage. Now, we had read the first 3 lines and didn't find the answer to this question, so we would proceed from that point. One day when there was, that's the 4th line, one day when there was hunger in the land, Toro decided to leave home in search of food for himself because his parents did not care for him. So that answers our question. Toro left home because he was hungry. Toro left home because he was hungry. So the answer is C. Okay, then we go to question number 8. Question number 8 says the town was called Blind Town because A, the fruits were ripe, B, the fruits were wasting away, C, the land was fertile, D, people could not see, E, people were beggars. So we would go back to the passage again. Okay, now we would continue from where we stopped. One day when there was hunger in the land, Toro decided to leave home in search of food for himself because his parents did not care for him. So while he was gone, nobody missed him. Toro journeyed through several lands, villages, and towns until he stopped in a town called Blind Town. In this town, he discovered that the land was fertile with fruit trees bearing ripe fruits wasting away, and the people were all blind. Okay? They could not do anything for themselves but sit down, calling and crying out for help and alms from travelers passing by day and night. He felt pity for them and gathered them for a meeting where he suggested that because they were blind, they needed people that could see to lead them. They all agreed it was a great idea and begged him to become their king, not knowing that he was even a boy. Toro accepted and told them he would return to his village quickly to bring his people. When Toro got to his village, he narrated all that happened, and the people, including his parents, were ashamed and begged him for forgiveness. Toro forgave them and took them back to Blind Town, where he became the one-eyed king who ruled the people with great kindness. So the town was called Blind Town because the people could not see, or because the people were blind. You see, the passage is majorly an implied passage. You do not see the answers written out there, spelled out. Okay, the town was named Blind Town because the people in the town were blind. You have to imply the meaning from the passage. Okay, so we'll go to question number 9. Toro was made king because he could not see. Is that it? A, he had one eye. C, he needed to be a leader. D, was blind too. Or E, was just a boy. Now we'll go back to the passage. By now you would have gotten a feel of where the answer is. The passage is the answer to that question should be towards the end. They all agreed. Okay, let's read from here. He felt pity for them and gathered them for a meeting where he suggested that because they were blind, they needed people that could see to lead them. They all agreed it was a great idea and begged him to become their king, not knowing he was even a boy. Right? So they accepted to make him king because he could see. So we'll go back to the question. So Toro was made king because he could see. It was not even because he had one eye, because a blind man cannot tell whether he has one eye or not. It wasn't because he needed to be a leader. It wasn't because he was blind, because he wasn't blind too. He's just blind on one eye, and blind on one eye does not mean you're blind entirely. And Nobody knew he was just a boy. So our answer is B. No, our answer is A. Okay, he could see. Then you go to question number 10. Why were Toro's people and parents ashamed of themselves? They were ashamed because, was it A, did not care for him, B, wanted a king, C, wanted to go to a blind town, D, were blind, E, were monsters? So we go back to the passage. With our general feel of the passage, we know where that passage is. It's actually in the last part. I'll take that sentence. Yes. When Toro got to his village, he narrated all that happened, and the people, including his parents, were ashamed and begged him for forgiveness. Okay? So why did they beg him for forgiveness? I think the answer is in the first part, which says that wherever he went, people laughed at him. Okay, this is it. Wherever he went, people laughed at him and called him a monster. One day, when there was hunger in the land, Toro decided to leave home in search of food for himself because his parents did not care for him. So I think this is where the answer lies. Okay, of course, this is an implied essay, and this is one of the reasons why I say that it is almost impossible for you to make 100%. If you made 100%, you were just lucky. Anybody who makes 95% in an English exam should be said to have passed that exam in flying colors, because what the author of the passage may have made out of the passage, because he wrote the passage, he knew the situations in which the passage was being written. His answers, some of his answers, let me say, could differ from the answers of a reader who is not immersed, or who was not immersed in the context for which the passage was read. So there is that possibility that the vast majority of good English students wouldn't make 100% on their English section. But if you do your job and you learn what we're trying to teach you, you will make a very, very high percentage. And who knows, you might be someone who will make the 100%. So I think that the answer for question number 10 was that they did not care for him. Okay, so please subscribe. The body of video tutorials in our channel is growing. The videos are updated as we progress. Subscribe to become a part of the community that is helping put Nigerian curriculum content on the internet. Get notified every time our content is being updated to be the first to know. Click the notification bell below. Please also make constructive comments and criticisms. Your comments and criticisms go a long way in helping us improve our content and therefore our effectiveness at being helpful to you and others that need this service. Of course, you remember you can always comment below. Thank you, and stay tuned on this channel for episode 3 of our 23-day tutorial series. From us at IEMCR, it's bye.